Well, hello. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, August 20th, to everybody listening. Glad you're here. Glad I'm here. Glad we made it. Glad Tim's here. Welcome to the Tim Rouse studio. Got a plumbing problem? 920-830-9222. Go ahead and text Tim Rouse at that free text line. We'll have more formal commercials playing in the very near future, but until then, this is the way. This is the way we're going to do things here. Fantastic guy, fantastic company. Thrilled he's joining the program here. We got two more sponsors lined up for Outside the Box, ladies and gentlemen. This might actually become a full-fledged operation here. I know. I'm just as shocked as everybody else. Todd Pingle was messaging me throughout the entire evening yesterday, letting me know what a failure I was and that he was going to sue me for making fun of him for being impotent via email. And I let him know that I picked up two more sponsors this morning because, to be perfectly frank, I just struggle being the bigger person sometimes. Um, but what's the email count at? Infinity. Infinity gamer. It's crazy. Like I'm not even lying when I say I sent him a screenshot of it. I said, dude, I think you need counseling. He messaged Tim. He messaged Tim Roush's company and told him that he was aligning himself with a liberal crackpot that was fired for going on hate-filled rants, for spewing hate-filled rhetoric. And did you want to be associated with something like that? Is your inbox just his venting space? Well, to be fair, it is my spam box. I did block him, and so it just all goes to spam. And then once every 4 or 5 days, I go and look just because I hate myself mostly, but I go and look to see if he's still messaging. And sure enough, he's just always, but I have figured out it's not that he hates me. He hates Kirk Bangstad and Minocqua Brewing Company. And hello to the Minocqua Brewing Substack. Um, and so he will be messaging me about stuff happening on the Minocqua platform that I am completely oblivious to. That has nothing to do with me because, not to be rude, but realistically, I live in a constant churn kind of lifestyle right now. I really don't have time to like go and check out other publications for fun. So he'll be messaging me about shit that's happening, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea. And it's just crazy. So it's not even anti me; it's anti that I associate, and he doesn't want me associating with all of you out there in Substack world. But unfortunately, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Um, Cassandra, all you said is, "Have you seen this?" But I don't see anything. I don't think if you're sending links, I don't think YouTube lets you send links. So you're gonna have to like physically write out what you're trying to tell me right now. I don't know what it was. I missed you tremendously, Carla. By the way, you're the only one that understood. I didn't want to put it in writing, but you wrote a message under my TikTok edit of me going pew pewing over the weekend, and you're the only one that understood what was happening there. Oh, the power outage in Gary. No, I'm not familiar, Cassandra. Um, you don't have time because I'm too busy opening the door for the Adams family. Is this because I make short jokes, Fergs? Is this why I'm taking heat right now? Is it because I make a lot of short jokes? For the record, my brother's 5'6", so I can do this all day. All right. Let me go get you a chair so you can stand on it so you can kiss my ass. I'm joking. I love short people. 100,000 people in a blackout. Carla says 7 days without power in Gary, Indiana is a predominantly black area. National news not reporting. I have not seen a single damn thing about that, but I will definitely look into it. That's disgusting. Do we know, is it data center related? Or is it just a thing that happened? Enjoy the window cleaning, gamer. Always appreciate that you have me on in the background while you're doing your thing. Is Todd hashtag confirmed Dale? I think so. Oh, bad storm. Okay. How can this many people in an urban area be without power? I mean, I think you kind of summed it up there, Cassandra, right? That I think it's that it's a that type of shit is what happens in a predominantly black area. If it were a white area, there would be much more outcry. Look at this White House. You know what I mean? Hello, Violet. You know what I mean? Like it's. I'm not defending that. I'm saying if it worked that way, no, we're not doing that today. Oh, son of a gun! I didn't even realize I unplugged the mic. I hope. Let me know, TikTok, if this ruins the audio. I can take it out. But bang, do I sound more handsome now to you? Let me know if you can even hear me at all right now, or if not, because sometimes plugging that kind of stuff in ruins it. But no, I'm not familiar, and I don't want to pew pew from the hip here. Trying to push people into certain behaviors. Okay, cool. Sounds better. Wonderful. Um, Make sure you lie, but baddies. You like the lie, but baddies, says Ali. Am I a communot? No. No, more like a lowercase s socialist if I had to describe myself. I realize I have a video on TikTok right now that hit 500,000 views about communism and capitalism. It's just like a 15-second quick hitter and it's kind of popped off. But no, I'm more of just like tax the rich, like everybody should contribute but also should have a basic standard of living kind of guy. Communism works good in a vacuum, but you run into the same issues that you run into with capitalism. It's a matter of the people that are watching over the resources. Um, Lots of bad storms this summer. Their tornadoes were a week ago Tuesday. Okay. Okay. I mean, Menasha, at least parts of Menasha went without power for the better part of over a week. I did not have internet for 9 days. I at least had power. Um, I'm not making excuses. And it is ironic. Same thing happens in Texas. In these deep red states, it always seems as though they struggle keeping their energy grids wired in the right way. And I maintain um, that's going to be the next step of not funding social programs is rather than funneling money just into people's pockets, they're going to funnel it into re-upping that kind of stuff because it's necessary. Our entire energy grid is so weak. I think about that kind of stuff all the time when I try to go when I'm going to dark places. Like I oftentimes think about how like if you really wanted to cause a bunch of turmoil, you could just take a pack of cigarettes into a forest in the northwestern part of the country and just create havoc. Like if you were an enemy and like the idea that on a planet with 7 billion people and of course the Democrats and their open borders, blah blah blah, but like in reality under any president the idea that you could stop something like that is laughable. And it's the same thing with our energy grids. Like you could take these things down. There was a story that came and went that China was hacking our energy grids, and everyone just kind of glossed right over it, and we just moved on. Yeah, Carla, it seems as though you were missed in the chat. I gave you your space. I figured you were a bit upset, sort of upset, because obviously Rick Crossan won in District 8, but I figured the primary. A lot of people, I've noticed, August 22nd, in 2 days, it'll be the 4-year anniversary of when I moved out to the Fox Valley. And September 6th will be 4 years of me hosting my own show. And I've noticed that there's a bunch of viewers and it kind of crescendos at an election, and then the election happens and like 30% of the people bail for like a month or two, and then everybody comes back. Because like either you lost and you don't want to hear anything about politics, or you won and you're like, okay, I need to think about anything else other than politics right now. And so this show it just keeps going, it keeps trucking right along. But that is the standard thing, and then it all ramps back up again. And I will say, I'm saying this to all you guys. I did notice a complete doubling of my views after Trump won, implying to me that people stop giving a shit when Democrats are in power, and that's what ultimately leads to these quasi-fascist regimes that we have to deal with now today. So make sure you don't fall into that trap. Take breaks. Obviously, take breaks. But these are the kind of trends. I've done this long enough now that I've kind of learned the cycle. about how people view and take in this kind of content here. So just always kind of keep that part in mind there. But it's good stuff. And good morning to everybody. Laissez-faire capitalism is as unworkable for humans as communism. I agree. I think it's the exact same thing. Eljo says, I fucking hate politics. You could have fooled me, Eljo. It seems like you're kind of into it. Feels like you're kind of into it. By the way, thanks to Eljo for continuing to push me. I now have a professional Facebook page. Can't really tell the difference just yet, but it gives me goals now. So I think I might even be more active on these stupid sites. I thought I was getting shadow banned from TikTok again. I'm not. But in any event, enough about me. Oh, morning listening while I can work. Wonderful, Carl. I'm glad you're here. You're into it now out of spite. Jar Man, he says, I went to office hours with a state senator yesterday, and all of my concerns and hot topics were met with, don't worry, we know what we are doing type of answers. Disappointed but not surprised. Well, so I'm going to choose my words carefully here. I made a lot of new friends yesterday, and that was very fun. I went to an event and there was a bit of a listening session, and there were between 30, 35 people that ended up showing up to this thing. It was decently well attended for like a random Wednesday night in Oshkosh at the Democratic office in Oshkosh. And it was funny. I did text friends of mine. I had been there for 5 minutes, and I did end up getting scolded because we were supposed to be doing a group exercise. Like we were in tables of 4, and we were supposed to be picking the policies that we liked that we would want to push in front of David Crowley to get him talking about in the campaign and how he was going to address it. And of course, I kick in the outside the box mode because I only have the one mode, obviously. And I'm just like, yeah, well, it's pretty hard to reconcile the idea that he wants to leave it to municipalities while also wanting to be the epicenter for the world for data centers. And I get a, remember, we're talking about things we like. And I'm like, right. He seems like a nice man. But there were a lot of ideas. Jokes were told, ideas were bounced around back and forth. But I do have to say, in line with what you were saying, Jaro, at one point there was a conversation, and I wish I had said this. Like, I'm kicking myself. And if anybody's listening to me right now that was at that meeting, count this in the notes from yesterday. There was a conversation at one point about how when you talk policy, when you're knocking on doors and you talk policy, not what you're going to want to do, like the idea that everybody should have health care, that is positive. But when you talk about how you're going to institute it, that's when people's eyes glaze over. And there was like half the people kind of agreeing with that. I was quietly biting my tongue, but I didn't know how to vocalize it otherwise. I went on a rant about how on Outside the Box radio version, everybody thought I was a moderate. So the idea that talking policy will somehow label you as a progressive or as a leftist, and therefore cost you votes, I kind of highlighted that I thought that was a little bit garbage because obviously I was able to blend in just fine. And I literally said things like, I don't know if I buy into this whole border thing. You know what I mean? And everyone's like, yeah, he's pretty centrist. Like, so I don't necessarily see like that. But here's the thing, and I might be biased here. All right. Obviously, there's some bias in this statement, given it's how I identified politically. But I think I'm right. I believe progressives are the smartest flank of the political spectrum. When it comes to wanting in depth conversations about how things will get done and the nerdy shit about politics, progressives are the most interested in learning about that kind of stuff. In my opinion, there's a scale. I'm not saying it's either you got it or you don't, but I'm saying per capita, I would argue that the progressive flank of politics in 2026 is by far the most informed, most interested on how things get done, most interested in what policies have failed, what led to them failing, how you might want to try and reinstitute the same idea through a different metric. That is what progressives want to hear. And so when the comment is made that people's eyes gloss over when you're talking politics, or like policy, I should say, well, yeah, maybe if you're talking to a MAGA who's worried they want to trans your kids, yeah, maybe he isn't interested in the nitty gritty about what you're going to do about making sure that special needs funding is brought back up to a commensurate level of where it should be at this stage of the game. I can understand that sentiment. But that wasn't the point of yesterday's meeting. The point of yesterday's meeting was the fact that Francesca Hong overperformed in the Fox Valley and Green Bay area. Is that because of outside the box? No way to know, but yes. Uh, and the whole point of this was, how are you going to bring people over that voted for Hong that are a bit skeptical about what David Crowley represents? And if you want to reach out to that crowd, I think you do have to be policy heavy. I think you do need to highlight exactly how you intend to do things, whether it be with school vouchers, which we're about to have a conversation about in a little bit here, surrounding what's referred to as 100% schools, which means 100% of the students at the schools um, are on some form of vouchers with no accountability. What does this data center legislation looks like? Because it does kind of feel like you're contradicting yourself. Again, I am not confused about what David Crowley represents. Excuse me, Tom Tiffany represents in the realm of data centers. Um, but this isn't about that. This is about David Crowley versus the couch. And no, that's not JD Vance, to whoever made that joke yesterday. That's the literal couch. That was the point of this. I'm starting my outside the box turning point series on September 10th. Ironically enough, the 1 year anniversary of a certain event. And I'm going to be going to a handful of campuses around Wisconsin, and I am not allowed to I'm not pushing people to vote for Crowley there. I am getting a feel for the people that were following the primary over the summer. Were you excited about Hong? Did you hate Hong? Are you intending to vote Republican as a young person? Why did you get here? And I'm going to be interviewing plenty of people around a number of campuses, starting at UWO, and we're going to work our way out from there. And you need to listen. You need to listen to what these people are looking for. And more importantly, you need to deliver. By the time September 10th rolls around, that's another 3 weeks before we're going to get there. It's 3 weeks from today. Every day, not capitalizing on being more specific about how you're going to get things done in the eyes of progressives. Again, I'm not saying you're going to change it. We go get the Mexicans, MAGA. You're not going to. They're too far gone. The name of the game is getting Hong voters out, Democrats. Your move. I can provide you the roadmap, but you need to follow it. What's up, Jim? Maybe they should have taken a hint and that they need to think outside the box. Okay, Eljo. Okay, I see you. The establishment Dems are trying to make us feel better because we already have so many data centers in Wisconsin and our area. But again, and I talked about it yesterday, Jarmani, there is a certain necessity for these things. And I would like to see regulations imposed on those as well. But it's just a matter of, I did the math yesterday. If you want to be a data center hub, Virginia alone has more than 500. We have 47. Wisconsin told us that on Friday. So we would need to 10 times plus what we are currently working with in order to get to that level. Now, Oshkosh obviously passed their moratorium Tuesday evening, and there's a bunch of cities that I have a feeling are going to ultimately end up following suit. But this goes beyond touchy-feely stuff. How do you get Tim Mahadi's for Hong shirt? I don't know, but he deserves one. I agree. I believe when I got one at the event in Milwaukee, I was told that was the last large. I don't know if there were XLs or not. Ethan says if you were able to articulate how to do things, they actually sound reasonable and doable. They also identify the bad guys, whereas Medicare for All sounds good, but let's not talk about the wealthy. I agree, man. I totally agree. And my bad about this weekend. We were supposed to get drinks, and I freaking spent all day in the sun drinking, drinking casually and shooting. Am I still bruised? Yeah, look at that. Look at that. How's that even happen? Um, Wait, you have meetings set with my last two guests so you can be better prepared. I don't remember who my last two guests were. I don't understand why we suddenly need thousands of times more data centers really quickly. I agree. I agree. It's suspicious. That's the thing. That's what everybody is concerned about. Ah, yes, Quinn and Rachel. Wonderful. Good. Good, good. And I met Becky Nichols, campaign manager, who is running as the Democrat in the 53rd district, which is where Rachel Dowling is. So they're wrapped up in things the next couple weeks, but Becky's going to be on the show in the near future. Violet, I'm saying I understand that the ones that are currently here are needed, not 10 timesing all the data centers. I'm saying, I don't know if you were here for it yesterday, Violet, but like the only way you are able to scroll TikTok and watch me on TikTok is because we have data centers. I'm not saying that your life would completely collapse in on itself if you lost TikTok, but I am saying there are certain elements of life. The reasons why I can store all of my YouTube videos on YouTube is because of data centers. There is a rationale behind them. I am nervous about the excess data centers because to me, it says you're intending to store a whole shit ton more data. And what data do you want to store? Probably personal data, maybe data people saying, we should probably cut off weapons to Israel until they show they can learn how to use them. And then you weaponize that against them at a future place. Don't dob me. Don't dob me. You were the one asking questions. Carl says the establishment Dems now to gamey were pushing Kelda so hard, and now I feel like it was on purpose to take votes from Hong. I don't know. People like we need to stop with this take votes bullshit. Personally, I didn't buy it with Jill Stein and Kamala Harris. I don't buy it with Kelda Royce and Francesca Hong. In Florida, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Let's start here. Fuck Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She was one of the main antagonists against Bernie Sanders in 2016. I have not a single reason to defend that woman for any reason. She ran a campaign. She carpetbagged. She moved to Florida because she lost her seat in New York because New York is vehemently anti-Israel at this point, and Schultz is decidedly not. Wasserman Schultz, excuse me. And she goes to Florida into a predominantly black district. And she ran against three other Democrats in their primary. And all three of the other Democrats were black people. And it ended up that Debbie Wasserman Schultz ended up taking the primary against the three black individuals. And I saw a lot of people online saying, well, this is what happens when two people that don't have a chance take votes from a third. And if the black vote could have coalesced around one candidate, we probably wouldn't have Wasserman Schultz in there. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that is probably accurate. But also in a democratic system, anybody who qualifies and wants to run for office is allowed to qualify and want to run for office. And the idea that some people should step down. It's a matter of ego, right? Like, I'd like to think in that scenario, if I were polling at 4% and the other people were in like the 30s, I'd be like, well, maybe it's just not my time right now. But you have to be in the moment. If it's been your life's goal, your life's work, maybe you want to ride it out to the end. Quitting's for nerds, Like, the idea that you're taking votes from someone. No, it is on the voters to be informed. And yes, we are in a very uninformed society in 2026. And I get that. But the idea that Calderoy should, for some reason, feel guilty or we should be angry, like, no, I'm not. I'm not saying you can't feel that way, Carl. I'm saying I'm not buying that. Um, do I think she maybe took some votes from Hong? For sure. But I still maintain what cost Hong was Republicans cross voting for David Crowley. I'll never be able to prove that. I'm just saying the results of the 8th district make me think I'm right. Yeah, and Jarmani kind of backs it up. She says, I know a lot of those people well, and they legit liked her. It wasn't for any other reason. Many of them flipped from supporting Sarah to Kelda after meeting her. Then there were the real establishment Dems and Outagamie who fully supported Sarah, then quickly flipped to David. Some of them even were rudely talking to many of us about how bad all the others were. Right. Brian says, so they want to know how to bring in Hong voters. Maybe just explain what your views are in the campaign. Tell us exactly where you stand. Well, no, apparently that makes your eyes gloss over, Brian. Always remember, I was told in Pittsburgh that Outside the Box would fail because I was too smart for talk radio. And maybe that was accurate looking back on it, given my unceremonious firing. But I was told that getting into the nitty gritty of politics would be too heavy for too many people. Obviously, they were wrong, but the conventional wisdom is that people don't want to hear that. I am living proof that that is not accurate. And I back it up every single day. Apparently, the ratings came out for spring, and of course, nobody's telling me what they are, which means that I feel like I probably, you know, probably right. Can't prove it, but probably. TJ, hello, TJ. Winnebago passed their moratorium. The county board meeting where it happened was in Oshkosh, which can be confusing, but it was the city who passed it. Oh, okay. I apologize. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. There's sometimes, you spin a lot of plates here. I got 4 screens in front of me, and sometimes the words come out in a way that I don't mean them to, and then I don't even notice it. So I appreciate you keeping me in line there. Yeah, I know there's only 4 cities that it actually, um, applies to, but for sure. Ethan, you're disappointed, thought for sure you shot your eye out. No, just casually buzzed and generally sore. Um, Good news. Okay, not so much. BlackRock is partnering with Meta to build a 1,000-acre data center in El Paso. That's like a Mad Libs of all the worst things. Texas, BlackRock, Meta, data center. Canary agrees with me, and it takes her a lot. Oh, hi, Nataki. I didn't even see you sneak in there. It takes a lot for Canary to agree with me, so I must be on to something here. I love using AI, Google AI to help me price the sports memorabilia that I sell. I used Google AI to figure out how a professional Facebook page works. I'm not saying that you have to completely abstain. I say I probably use AI like I don't know how to use real AI. I use the AI that comes with Google and I will ask it questions. LOL, shut up and entertain us. Yeah, right. I have seen numerous. It's funny. So Eljo's thing auto corrected. It says shit up and entertain us, and then she said shut up. I was talking to people about pew pewing, and I meant to say I shot 75 rounds, and it said I shit 75 times, or I shot 75 times. It said I shit 75 times. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it hang. I have seen numerous Republicans claim to have voted for Crowley because they are scared of Hong. Again, there's people that share anecdotal evidence, and I buy that. But if people are publicly mentioning it, please keep in mind, I'm going to keep reminding you this. There's an entire ecosystem of right wingers that their whole shtick is trying to get leftists so mad that they stay home. Right? Always remember, and like, I'm not telling anybody to go out and vote. I never will. You have to decide that this candidate is good for you. I'm going to lay out the information. I'm going to lay out the policies. I was having a talk about this with somebody. Actually, hold on. I have to check the Facebook comments here anyway, but I'll read it to you because I think you guys will find this interesting because it'll give you some insight into my mindset, um, as well as why I believe it's your job to determine what you want. Carla's becoming my Natalie. That's not funny. That's not funny. She's married. Look forward to, I didn't know who Natalie was when I read that. I wouldn't have read it. Well, hello, Rachel. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to another chat with Mehlia. Okay, I do need to correct. She actually lost a pet last week, and my condolences go out to her. She'll be on tomorrow. I did not know any of this happened, and we kind of talked early this morning, and I was like, let's just push it a day. So I realized my description says she's coming on today, but she's coming on tomorrow. So I apologize for that. Iran hacking the water treatment systems and the federal government denied it. I remember that. But so, okay, let me find this woman in my notifications. And I'm not attacking her, by the way, in case there's any chance you're listening right now. I genuinely appreciated this back and forth here. A regular listener of the show, not regular caller Ben, a different one named Ben, says, if you don't already, I highly recommend subscribing to Ben Cominos, which you all should do. Go on the Tuba U, click that subscribe button. We're 105 people away from being able to monetize. Let's go, fucking people. 105. Tell your friends. Streams live on YouTube, to which this individual, we'll just call her Amanda. She's got a longer name. Says he's still too inside the box for me. So I responded, hi, Amanda. What part of your caption do you think I disagree with? I'm asking in good faith. I would just like your perspective. Now, in her caption, she wrote, we are working on a new way. The majority of people just don't realize it yet. It's mutual aid and municipalism, and it looks like community gardens, repair cafes, free dentists, tool libraries, free school, skill workshops, maker spaces, tiny homes, farmers markets, gardening, canning, crafting. It's expanding as demand calls for it, and it eventually is going to cover the basics of all the bases of all basic human needs. The umbilical cord to gangster corporations and corrupt government is being cut. If we want more of the change now, then more of us need to get volunteering our talents more, which I think is something, if you listen to this show, that you can all agree. So I asked her for her perspective. And this is all going to tie into whether or not you should vote for David Crowley, by the way. That is the crux of why I am reading this to you. Hello, Valerie. Welcome to the party. This is Outside the Box. Live 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. I scrolled through your timeline a bit. This is Amanda. And I noticed that you still have faith that we can make the system that is designed to work against us work for us. My idea of working outside the box is working outside the system, in building a new way, as I state in my caption. I understand that you can't just completely abandon one for the other because they don't just switch off and on like that. But I didn't see anything where you were inspiring a new way truly outside of the government box either. You're welcome to tell me how I didn't just scroll and read deep enough. To which I responded, this is where it ends. No, that's a fair assessment. I think I process the concept of abandoning the system differently than you do, is all. There's a large part of me that just wants to say fuck this party in November because I know there's not a large difference between the two candidates. Then my conscience kicks in and I realize that as a guy that isn't in the target of the GOP, from a demographic standpoint, that is, that it's important for me to be thinking of others in my political decisions before my own feelings. It's a feeling that prevents me from truly going scorched earth, but my patience is waning every day that Dems play in my face. You have a little more freedom in that regard because you know the risks involved, and if you've weighed them and made your decision, then who the hell am I to judge you for that? I appreciate your candor, though. If you're not ever working, and I invited her to be a guest on the show, like a caller on the show anytime she wanted to vocalize this opinion, because I welcome that mindset. But so I say all of that to say, which apparently is my catchphrase, that maybe this show isn't as far outside the box for some people. People asking me in the comments on my TikTok chat if I'm a full-blown communist or not because of a post that I made. But this is how I view voting for David Crowley. It's only going to work for so much longer on me, but I know that if I sat out this election and Tom Tiffany rolled back um, reproductive rights, if he didn't certify an election, if he somehow made healthcare even more expensive than it already is while claiming that he had achieved the goals that he had set out through some kind of made up bullshit rhetoric, I'd probably get to feeling pretty guilty. And there'd probably be a large contingent of people that would be upset. And I don't give a shit, but they would be rightfully so upset. And that's why I'm trying so hard to get the Democratic establishment to embrace the Wisconsin left. And it really is like dragging grown ass men and women kicking and screaming in a lot of ways. For every person that made a little bit of sense during the meeting yesterday, there would be another person that would stand up and talk about what an existential threat Tom Tiffany was without saying a single thing about David Crowley. And that's how the system is allowed to perpetuate. And I hate this fucking system. And incrementalism from Democrats isn't going to get us where we need to go. It's a much more complex issue than I let on sometimes, right? And we all have to make this decision for ourselves. I haven't checked my comments in a while, so I'm about 8 minutes behind on comments. I'm going to have to skip a couple of these here. I'm describing the libertarian utopian society. Maybe. It sounds communist to me, honestly. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like a commune. Sometimes the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve more. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded. I agree. Eljo says, I hope she comes on. Me too. I need to post the link. There it is. I hope you're listening, Amanda. I hope you'll come on the show. Man, I wish I was cool enough to have been invited to that meeting. Well, you're not. No, I don't even know. I don't know how I did. I don't think I'm that cool either. For all you brick shitty nerds, call Tim Roush Plumbing. I don't know why I picked the sign up. It's obviously going to fall now. 920, that's a free text line. I agree, Keto. I think people obviously deserve more. We need the hero. We need the hero America needs, or deserves, not the one it needs, or whatever the right way to say it is. That's what we need. But so, I don't know what was accomplished in the meeting yesterday. Other than I got to meet the Democratic candidate for sheriff for Winnebago County, Ripple. Seems like a very nice guy. Didn't get a chance to talk to him a lot. Who else was I speaking to? Alex Corrigan, who's running in the 55th district, got a button. Didn't remember what district she was in. But we got that one there as well. Met a handful of people. That was nice, and we'll get a few more guests on the show. But by and large, I feel like, not to toot my own horn, but the outside the box turning point -2 holes campaign, I think that's what I'll call it, is probably going to do a lot more damage than anything that was talked about yesterday, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and find out here. But it's a matter of reaching out to that younger demographic who I don't know. Can't call it turning point. What if I call it outside the box : the turning point? Huh? Turning up, as Carlos suggested. I kind of like that one. What about outside the box turning up? No, no what? Um, so we'll see what ends up happening. I think you're just agreeing with me, Jar Manny, but toilet paper USA. What if I call it toilet paper? Inside the term, these are all good ideas. Voting versus community action. That's what the AI summary on TikTok is describing this show as today, and I can kind of get behind that idea. T Pussa. TPUS. Kristen, you're funny sometimes. You know that? Most times you're very funny. Good at naming stuff. Turning up is better. Okay. I dig it. I dig it. But yeah. And by the way, shout out to everybody who showed up. Like there's a lot of engaged people that want things to be better. So like that in and of itself is more than a reason to be excited about what happened yesterday. I just don't know. I don't know that the Democratic powers that be, I think everybody in that room had good intentions. It's a matter of the higher ups. It's like I always say, I do believe there are Republicans out there voting for reasonable shit. I believe the party doesn't represent that at all, and the voters turn a blind eye to that, which is their fault. But any organization, like the Boy Scouts were a good organization. Some of those people were pretty fucking evil, right? It's kind of how everything works. Catholic Church, a lot of devout Catholics doing a lot of good things. Higher ups of the Catholic Church in the early 2000s and for like a 70-year period left a lot to be desired. That's realistically any organization that you talk about. Like eventually on a football team, you hit a point where people thinking about whether or not they win or lose. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in the organization that are like, yeah, Super Bowl or bust, baby. We got to put it all out there. And then eventually it hits, well, how many tickets did we sell this year? And then really Super Bowl's kind of irrelevant at that point. You can apply it to anything. And I kind of felt it not in the room, but it was just so highlighted to me while we were talking yesterday that it was like, will these people even hear us? Like, what do you mean, will they hear us? They work for me. What do you mean, will they hear me? Trombone potato? Yeah, maybe. We just need to trick them into ranked choice voting so people can stop voting against their own interest and try to protect themselves from the nut jobs. I feel that. Yeah, I don't know enough about this Pete Stauber situation here, Aljo. I need to learn more about it. If you want, I shared the link. If you want to tell the listeners what's going on in your state, I'm sure they'd love to hear it. You're more than welcome to join. I can repost just so you don't have to look at it. I know you're not. You said you're not as much the talker, but if you know some of the details, by all means, hop on. I'd love to bring you on. And Eljo, by the way, works. The SOL is Sons of Liberty. If you're not following them on Facebook and on socials, you should check it out because I like what they're doing. It's pretty funny. And I saw some TikTok shorts. I'm assuming that was Sarge who was doing it, and he had some interesting viewpoints for sure. Thank you for all the gifts, Elf, as per usual. I genuinely appreciate that. Um, but yeah, so that's my experience on the local side of things. I do want to go into the statewide thing here. School vouchers are obviously on a lot of people's minds in this state, as they always are. Um, and ProPublica actually put out a specific to Wisconsin article that I think is worth reading. Wait, what'd you say here? Oh, you're at work. Okay. Um, cool. Um, ProPublica has a specific to Wisconsin story by Megan O'Mats, and I highly suggest reading the entire thing. I hate reading other people's work to you guys, but sometimes it's just better to do it that way and then react on the other side of it. The title says, at quasi-public private schools, 100% of students get tuition vouchers. There's almost no accountability. And so I want to read a little bit of how it starts out. I'm not going to read the whole thing, so I think you guys should go and find this on your own and actually I'm going to post it on YouTube, and we will get it on the Facebook Live as well here. Don't leave me now to read it. I'm going to read it to you, but I'm going to post it here. So anybody that wants more information about it, it's in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. TikTok, you're SOL. No pun intended, Eljo. Here's how it goes. None of you will be surprised by this, by the way. At some point, my reporting colleagues and I began referring to them as 100% schools. We were following the money that flows from states' public coffers into private schools through vouchers when we noticed a subset of educational facilities where tax dollars cover all or a big part of the tuition for every student. In essence, these were schools that were funded like public schools, but didn't operate with the same oversight or transparency. Again, this is in Wisconsin. Our reporting found that these type of private schools exist throughout the country, and that in Wisconsin, where I'm based, there were 39 that fell into that category during the most recent school year. Together, they were educating 7,923 children and taking in roughly 87 million from vouchers offered by the state. Atlas Preparatory Academy in Milwaukee was a 100% school in my city, and that had the lowest test scores and declining enrollment, while also receiving more than 4.3 million in voucher money for 357 students grades K through 12. It was one of the first schools I dug into, and immediately some of the facts I unearthed in public documents made me curious. There was, for instance, the money being made by its board chair, who also appeared to serve as a school administrator. His compensation was more than $150K in 2024. Now, there is some overlap here, for the record. Because administration in public schools also does bring in a hefty payday. And if you want to agree with public schools, that might not necessarily change your mind. And so to operate in good faith, I would like to highlight that it is not all sunshine and roses on the public side of things either in that regard. Back to the article. This dual rule would be prohibited at a traditional public school in Wisconsin, though there are no such rules for private schools. In another transaction that would raise an alarm in a public school setting, the same board chair's accounting firm received tens of thousands of dollars from the school for accounting and consulting. During my reporting, it became clear that the school's operations were not only discordant with public school policies, but with basic governing standards for nonprofits, experts told me. More than a decade ago, a Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction research paper on what is called school choice asked, "When is a private school really a public school?" Though that question still resonates today, public officials supporting vouchers have yet to provide a clear answer. What is a woman? Nor has there been any progress in Wisconsin or elsewhere in lining up the standards of private and public schools on a range of issues, even when the spectacular growth of private schools funded by taxpayer dollars. Voucher schools, for instance, are not required to serve all children with disabilities. Public schools are. Another major difference is transparency. In Wisconsin and elsewhere, information about public schools, good, bad, or mundane, can be gleaned through open meetings, district YouTube channels, and robust websites with detailed agendas, minutes, reports, statistics, and information about enrollment, curriculum, special education services, and more. Districts have to abide by Wisconsin's open records law, meaning that reams of records are available to anyone who formally requests them. Not so for the private schools. Voucher schools must, by law, have at least 2 opportunities a year for parents to meet with the governing board, but the schools do not have to make those meetings accessible to the general public. This is a very long article, and I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but I think you guys can kind of get the gist of where this goes based on the brief excerpt that I read to you right there. I've referred to it like this before, and I'm going to call it that again. The voucher school system, regardless of what state you are looking at, is trickle down economics for the schooling system. By and large, the reason why people are so pissed off at the public schools doesn't have anything to do with performance. Performance is the red herring. We are underperforming and are gradually performing worse every single year. And to be frank, the way we talk about schools today are the way people that talked about my generation. No child left behind. Remember that? We were all going to be a bunch of dumb people, which sort of true. I always joke with you guys like I speak well, which leads people to think I'm a very intelligent guy, but in reality, I don't know. I don't know how much stuff I actually know. Like if society collapsed, I don't know how useful I would be to society because I'm not sure 100% how much we get taught. Here's a fun fact. In Western PA, I was the last grade. I graduated from high school in 2006. When I was in elementary school, which I graduated from in 2000, I was the last class that had grammar. Like my younger brother didn't learn grammar in elementary school. It's fucking crazy. Like, there's issues, right? But we were told how dumb we were going to be, how useless we were going to be, how this no child left behind thing was going to leave us at a point where we weren't going to be able to compete, to contribute, to get out there and make money and sustain in society. And now those conversations are only 10 times. But that's not what people are nervous about. That's, as I've just highlighted, that's been a conversation for the last 26 years. And if I have to be frank, for those of you a little older than me, probably longer than that, right? So it's not about the performance. So what's it about? It's about that they're coming to trans your kids. They're teaching my kids that there's more than two genders. And I myself dropped out of school in eighth grade and there's only two genders. I'm an expert. That's where all of this stems from. They want you to go into a school that's going to have the exact same kind of output because at the end of the day, the performance of people in school is a systemic issue brought about by the fact that a lot of us don't necessarily have a parent stay home anymore, right? I've told this story 1,000 times. When I was born, my mom quit working until my younger brother was 12. So for 14 years, she watched us do our homework. When I have a memory that basically starts when I was 3 years old. I remember her teaching me how to read when I was 3 years old. I remember playing memory games. I remember staying um engaged academically well before I even went to school. I didn't do pre-K, I didn't do preschool. My mom was just in my life every day. Then I went to school, and when I'd come home, immediately jumping on the homework with me, making sure that I understood how to do things. Would give me shit if she saw me playing Sega instead of studying for a test that was 3 freaking days away, you know? And so when I would go to class, I performed, and she would say, "How'd the test go?" I'd say, "It was easy." She said, "It wasn't easy. You were prepared." I was like, "Fuck out of here. I'm brilliant." Um, but that is why I was able to excel. In America in 2026, for the record, I'm not saying that it has to be the woman staying home or that you should feel bad for not staying home at all, because in 2026 America, one salary really doesn't get it done anymore, unless you're fortunate. Sometimes it does, not always. So now we're sending kids to school that aren't as equipped as they used to be, putting more pressure on the teachers. And God forbid the teacher have pink hair, because now all of a sudden it's going to be a conversation about non-binary and the number of genders and blah, 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 instead of the realities that are facing so many of these kids. And then certain morons are going to turn around and blame those teachers because, of course, they can't look inward. Do you remember when everybody absolutely just hit the fan? The shit hit the fan when COVID happened because they're like, wait, I got to be with my kids all the time now. This sucks. This sucks. Remember that? You guys remember that happening? Teachers have a hard job. And the idea that kids are struggling shouldn't fall on them. There are bad teachers. There's bad everything. There's bad talk show hosts. Most of them are still employed. It's a matter of understanding that putting our dollars into the hands of people wealthy enough to be able to afford to go to private school to begin with is not going to address the issue. And I don't think that's a bold declarative statement either. And as you can see by this ProPublica article, which links on Facebook and YouTube, it's clearly not working. I used to have the stats. I don't have them in front of me now, but I believe the most fair private school voucher system was in Arizona, I want to say. And in that one, 73% of all dollars went to students that were already in private school because that's how they bill it, right? That's what Republicans say. I guess Ben Comino's and outside the box doesn't want black people to get a leg up in society. These school vouchers are making sure that black kids in Milwaukee can get into the schools. Fuck you. No, they don't. It is a matter of going to the people that can already afford, some of which I'm sure are black because it's 2026 and people can afford shit now. But that doesn't change. But so you see these, and then as it gets worse, I've seen other states where it's 91% of voucher dollars going to students that could already afford to go to private school. So, in other words, we're doing trickle down economics again. We are taking our tax dollars, funneling it into the already wealthy that could afford to send their kids to private school and just helping them afford that a little bit more. I'm sure it will trickle down on us any moment. Oh, wait, no, it won't. It never fucking trickles down. LOL, all you smart kids racked tens of thousands of dollars in student loans for mid jobs. You dumb kids got apprenticeships and trade schools that led to good paying jobs, right? Intelligence is all, I say all the time, everybody's got skills. And you utilize them. And I remember Carla mocked me when I went on a rant on this back when I used to exclusively do Ben After Dark. Because I was like, people be like, oh, she's only doing that because she's pretty. And I'm like, if you're pretty, use that. If you're good at school, use that. If you're good with your hands, use that. If you know how to talk well, use that. Fine. Intelligence is just understanding what your skills are and then using them to be able to exist in this ecosystem that we have built for ourselves. And Carla's sitting there writing, asterisks, taking notes, be hot. And I'm like, okay, it's not what I said. But Violated Elf says, I pulled a $10,000 student loan and I make over 100K. Can be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Between all of my investments, I was doing pretty well for myself. And now that I've got a handful of more sponsors starting up in September, I'm going to be doing okay for myself again. We're still going to do the paid subscription model, though, because those subscribers, again, Todd Pingle or whoever's in my emails is absolutely going to find every sponsor that ever finds me and send them all the angry emails that I send them and say, are you sure you want to endorse this guy? So we got to nip that shit in the bud. So I will still be doing the paid subscriber model when we once I qualify for it. 105 more subs, guys. But nevertheless, you're right, Elf. There is no right or wrong way. Oh, Violet, he's not just bugging me. You got to go back and listen to the first 10 minutes of the show. I'm not going to recount it again for everyone that was here for it, but it's ridiculous. Mikey just says, but God told me. That's, I guarantee you, in response to my two genders comment. Jim says accountability, transparency is the only way to rein in the vulture system. To receive tax dollars, public funds, vulture schools must meet the same standards as public schools, test scores, etc. I agree. And I don't even think you're making a bold declarative statement, Jim. I think that's just the basics of how this should work. And of course, Republicans will shit a brick because the dams are coming to trans your kids, Jim. MAGA conflates the greatness of the post-World War II era with America as being better because of social changes instead of their economic situation being so much better. I agree. In fact, I would argue that outside the box champions making America great again better than most MAGA voters do. I say I want to go back to the 1950s as well, just minus the sexism and racism rather than in favor of it. I want to go back to tax rates being between 70 and 91%. Do you guys know who was getting the 91% tax rate? Again, I am not advocating for this, for the record, but I'm just telling you what happened in the 50s. Adjusting for inflation, if you made more than $2 million, every dollar you made after $2 million, in today's dollars, every dollar after $2 million was taxed at 91%. It's fucking crazy. Oh, yeah, debt and deficit's up because the Mexicans. No, that's why the debt and deficit's up. It's not particularly. Well, thank you, Garnet. I appreciate that. She says good takes as usual. Anything over $2 million, 91%. You made $4 million. Okay, great. Of that second 2 million, 1.8 of it, a little more than that actually. Just over 1.8 million went back into the government to provide social programs for all the boomers. Sorry, Brian. And yet we act like that wasn't happening. So I'm not saying it has to go to that extreme again. I do think that's a bit far out there. But if you want to talk about making America great again, that was a large part why it was. Oh, I apologize. I said she. I meant they. Son of a bitch. My bad, Garnet. I suck. I suck. I'm trying. God damn it. But you're exactly right, Ethan, in your assessment of the matter. I don't think it's hard to understand. Yeah, no, you don't need to thank me. I'm like Batman. Every every man has a tunica vaginalis between their legs. Did I get censored? You did not. Ben, if school vouchers don't benefit urban kids, why does Crowley support the program? Well, that's an interesting conversation, isn't it? And again, CKK, I'm not saying I would want the stats on it. I would want the stats because I feel like it's like anything else. It's like when you have a 401k. And so I sit there and say, the stock market really isn't a good indicator for how people in this economy are actually doing. And they were like, well, Ben, don't you have a 401k? Like, you have just as much invested in the stock market as everyone else. Like, no, fuck you. No, I don't. It is not the same thing. Like, yes, my retirement plan is better and the stock market going up is better because I have money invested in different options there that go up with the stock market. Do not equate me. I'm not saying you are, CKK, but don't equate me with Elon Musk borrowing billions of dollars against his stock and doing all these different things with it. Like, fuck out of here with that. And that's essentially how every system works. I take shit for doing this, but that's what USAID was. Like, for every well that they built, every AIDS clinic that they put together in Africa, which are objectively good, they were also using that money in pretty shitty ways around the planet as well. And they were like, do you really want to get rid of USAID? Like, we're doing a lot of good things in Africa with it. It's like, well, no, keep doing that, you pieces of shit. Stop doing the other stuff. And it's the same thing with the with the voucher system. It's if it's actually helping underprivileged communities get into private schools and improve their education, cool. Keep that part. If it's giving a bunch of white kids a safe space to not learn that trans people exist, fuck off. Use your own money for it and let your own dumbass kid do his own dumbass thing at the private school. Like, that should be the way that this works, not a one size fits all kind of approach to these things. They use vouchers to recruit black students for sports at private schools. I don't know why I didn't immediately jump to that. That's what Kristen says. That sounds right. Absolutely sounds right. I went to a wealthy white people private school for college. I think there were like 9 black people that went there, and they all were there for like you. It was D3, so you don't get scholarships for sports, but you get scholarships for sports. You know what I mean? This country, man. It really is. We really are less racist than a lot of places, and I think that's kind of hard to avoid. Like, I do want to highlight that. Like, there's a lot of places that wouldn't even attempt to embrace this kind of diversity. So, like, we are setting a standard, but we really do suck at it sometimes as well. And like, just embracing the pros and cons. I don't want to sound like I'm coming down on us all the time because like you go to China and there's a billion people there and they're almost exclusively Chinese. Like, we are trying, but god damn it, sometimes it's just embarrassing. Truckin hopped on TikTok here. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, I wanted to share with you a video I just saw 10 days prior to Mitch McConnell going into the hospital, he was on the House floor, and he stepped down from his chair and he voted up on a bill. And then his staff come over to him and like say, no, you need to vote down on this. And then he changed his vote to down.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
What in the hell are we doing here?
Nah, dude, nothing. What are we doing? The answer is nothing. And he's back in the business, and his staffers are telling him how to vote again, right?
Do you remember the movie Weekend at Bernie's?
Oh, sure.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, man. I'll have to look into that story. I appreciate you hopping on, dude. You take it easy. That's wonderful. Yeah, he's a walking corpse of an individual. I don't think I'm breaking any news to anybody on that one there. Shebang. Okay. Jar Man, who says, I was told yesterday we need to stop asking for that. Parentheses, taxing the rich. Oh, well, tell him I said fuck right off. Sister Jones says, you have a great laugh, trucking. That's very nice of you, Sister Jones. We're not allowed to be friends, though. Get out of here. Jarmani, yes, there are far more efficient ways to redistribute the wealth of the mega rich. Yeah, right. Well, I can think of a way, but I don't think I'm allowed to say it. I will definitely get shadow banned again if I say that way. David Crowley was supportive of the Evers Voss deal as recently as the primary debate. It's going to be a long fucking 75 days. 75 days, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. If we just help them keep their money, they will do something good with it. Probably. What's up, Adam? When you sue Todd Pingle for libel and seize his yacht, you can rename it Elon's Musk. Okay, I dig that. I dig that. Sister Jones, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show, but through some business partnerships, there's going to be 2 more sponsors on Outside the Box starting in September. I just thought you'd be interested in knowing that. Not that I know you personally in any way. Left Wing Gorilla says, when the stock market rallies, the wealth gap goes up exponentially. Exactly. It's not even difficult to understand. Like, and it's every single thing in America. Like, oh, you can't take that away. Do you want to take that away from the poorest individuals? No, I don't. Leave it there. It's all the other shit. It's all the other shit that's happening that I want to stop. Brian says, that part is true. Have no bitch about that, but I didn't get to access most of the programs. Wasn't in college, didn't serve in the military, but I got a federal loan at 18.5% and a 2% kick. Oh, are we doing this, Brian? Are we going to do this? Hold on. But I feel you. 18% is fucking obscene, but you guys were also able to refinance that like 3 days later. So, like, grow up. Oh, Eljo, you're going to be in Wisconsin. You're going to be on the eastern side. Old Lib says, talk to a farmer. Cuts to USAID are hurting them. Helped keep market prices up. Exactly. And I'm willing to bet billions of dollars are flowing to oligarchs all over the planet in the name of aid and assistance that is being pocketed by a handful of people. And of all the parts that didn't get cut, that's still happening. It's the farmer's aid that goes away. Oh, western side. That may as well be Africa, Eljo. What was the savings rate, Brian? That's what Harambe, the previously thought to be deceased gorilla, would like to ask you about. He's still alive and well, though. Don't get down on yourselves. But I mean, this article is a pretty damning condemnation of what's happening in our state. This is not hypothetical. I'm not reaching out. I'm not like planning I'm not trying to conflate two separate issues. I'm not picking a state that isn't apples to apples. This is in Wisconsin. It would be forbidden for a public school member in Wisconsin to also have a district management job under a legal doctrine regarding rules that are incompatible. In essence, one cannot supervise oneself, which would include hiring and firing and disciplining oneself. That's according to Dan Rossmiller, the executive director of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. This is what's happening behind the scenes, and Republicans also are cosplaying as the party of accountability. Tom Tiffany is telling you that he's going to show up with an intention of holding people to account. And like, he so obviously sucks. Democrats, please be listening to this show. He obviously fucking sucks. You just have to pull your shit together a little bit. Just make sure progressives show up. That's all you have to do, and you are going to walk away with a victory. Brian says it was fantastic if you had money. And like, I feel bad sometimes because I am harping on wanting Crowley to wake up to the obvious things that could potentially hamper his campaign. But it's also more of like I'm the blue canary in the coal mine, if you will. Sorry for stealing your thunder there, blue canary, but unfortunately it's mine now. I just white guyed my way right in there. Nothing you can really do about it. Hold on. Not ready for it yet. I jumped the gun on that. Crowley needs to get right on these things. It's not going to be hard. He's not going to lose Republican votes. I colonized it. Exactly. Thank you, Eljo. White guy as a verb, right? My white guy. That's how I described when I first used to hang out with some newer friends of mine. That's how I described my media career. I was literally selling concrete software, and I was like, you know what? I think I could host a talk show. Here we are, and all you guys are listening. So 6, 7, I'm just saying. The crappy thing about Crowley is what's up, Danny, is if he were to lose, there would be no lessons learned by the state Democrats. We'd just be too racist or something, right? Oh, no, absolutely. There's part of me that is saying a silent prayer that no matter what Crowley does, he comes away with a victory, because I know the pitchforks are going to be out for me the next day, even though I'm saying I did have some people running yesterday who said, Ben, I want to let you know I listened to your show and I think you are in the exact right position. You're saying that you're going to vote for him, but that you are not encouraging anybody to vote against their conscience, to do what they think is right. I think you're in the exact right point. I'm like, good, because I wasn't going to move anyway, but I'm glad to know I got your seal of approval. But yeah, the outside the box crew is going to get attacked if this doesn't go Democrats' way. I hope you all understand that. And we all bought into this together. Jaro saying they would just blame Hong voters. Absolutely they would. Absolutely they would. Go back. I've said this before. Go back and search it on your own. Bernie Sanders campaigned for Hillary Clinton quite a bit, including like 5 stops in the final week of the campaign, encouraging progressives to go out there and do something. And yet, if you ask centrists about it, it's like Bernie did everything he could to keep his base home. Just completely contrary to the history. You can very easily look this shit up. It's not a particularly difficult thing to understand or grasp. They're intentionally doing this kind of stuff. I'll tell you. Crowley, please stop doing this. Adam, for some reason, Keto gives me credit for when the Brewers win, even though I'm a Pirate. Well, I'm not a Pirates guy, but I'm a Pittsburgh guy. I don't get it. Jaro says, and they are speaking about the election like there's absolutely nothing to worry about. I was told a blue potato could beat Tiffany. That's what sucks even more, though, Jaro. And like, I'm going to be real. If you guys haven't heard, Butler County, which is in Western Pennsylvania, it's actually the first radio market I ever worked in. I used to joke that my audience was three little old ladies with hair curlers in listening to me talk about high school sports. That is where Donald Trump was almost assassinated the first time. And he won that district by 19 points in 2024. And a Democrat just won a special election there on Tuesday. After going plus 19 for the Republican, a Democrat now is running that district. All the wrong lessons are going to be learned by this. And that is my greatest fear. Because what liberals do is they live in the now, right? We got to beat Tiffany now, and then we can worry about it on the other side. Let me tell you why that's dumb as fuck. Because when you elect a centrist that ultimately does not move to the left and does not address the concerns about affordability in a way that is desirable by the people that might vote for Democrats going forward, that is what ultimately suppresses the turnout. I used an example about school lunch that ticked off one of my regular listeners on TikTok on Tuesday, but it's a fair example to make. It's not a literal example, it's a hypothetical example, but it's the principle of the matter. They run on doing a thing, they run on forgiving student debt, then they don't do it. Then they say, but show up and vote for us again anyway. Well, it's like, well, no. If you're drowning in 70K of debt, you don't give a shit about whatever. Oh, you mean I save $30 the next time I fly? Joke's on you. I haven't been on a plane in 15 years because stupid me, I went to college. You know what I mean? Like, that's their mindset. And then they don't show up. And then they get scolded for not showing up. If there's one thing we say the Democrats haven't learned, and there's one thing I've noticed, is that they're not per capita calling people racist for speaking out against Crowley. They're saying, feel your feelings, get over this, but we need you there in November. They're like 20% of the way there to understanding why people are so frustrated. But it's more than what was, for sure. Oh, yeah. Carla says every election is the most important election in quotes. And the base never stays the same and never builds or becomes anything else. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah, what's up, Brandon? Can we just start referring to the old white people controlling the Democratic Party as you people? Yes. I say you people all the time, except where it makes sense. I don't want to accidentally be in a racist situation, so I try to avoid it. But yeah, I have a field day with it. But yeah, they gotta learn. Like, I just don't want to lose. And for the billionth time, I'm voting. But I will say, as I said in my message to Amanda on Facebook, my patience is waning. They have got to come across. They have got to come across if they come away with a victory. Because I'll tell you right now, I will not explain away the shortcomings, especially if they get a trifecta. I believe there's a large part of me that is there's a large part of me that believes a small part of the Democratic Party does not want that trifecta. Because this show will become their worst nightmare if they get it. In a good way for all of us, in a bad way for like, now you got to do the shit. If 5 Democrats all of a sudden find their moderate streak, we're going to have an issue. Call Tim Roush. You're in the Roush Plumbing Studio. Any plumbing needs, he's a fantastic man and a fantastic plumber, more importantly. I got a text message from him yesterday. One of you guys sent him a super nice email saying that you found out about the show from his operation from the show and said that that's why you reached out, and he thanked me for that it's already paying dividends. Sorry, Todd, but it looks like your plan to get my sponsors removed is not going to work as well as you thought it would. While we're talking, I kind of did this show out of order a little bit, but that's fine. So I jumped into the whole concept of what's this, Jay? One of the best things I like about this program will never explain Dems away. Oh no, absolutely not. Actually, quite the opposite. I'm probably too anti-Dem to a fault. Sorry, Todd. Add it to the merch ideas. Jay, you in here? I like it. But so let me share my screen here with you guys. I had mentioned in the 50s, more than $2 million, right? If you haven't heard, let's start here. If you haven't heard, we are passing $40 trillion of debt. And if you haven't seen my social post from this morning, this is actually one of the first segments from Outside the Box I ever did. I said, the national debt for Republicans is climate change for Democrats. It is a vast existential threat that I have been hearing about since basically I was able to conceptualize rational thought. I have been warned about how my grandchildren are never going to forgive my parents for not taking it seriously. All of the ramifications from said existential threat, and for the record, I do believe climate change is real. I question the debt and deficit stuff because, like, who do we owe? You know, like, I know we owe someone, but like, why else would we invest this much money in our defense department, right? But you notice the way that they both talk about them. Democrats are always like, you can't vote for Republicans. They're not taking climate change seriously. They're actually rolling back the clock on climate change. And the Republicans say you can't trust the Democrats on debt and deficit. They're actually spending more. Now, first of all, that's abject horseshit. And the Republicans are always the ones that spend more. In fact, 28.3% of all debt that America has ever accumulated has been accumulated by Donald Trump, and he still has 2 more years in office. So it's probably going to cross that $1 in every $3 of debt is as a result of Donald Trump. Then the party who warns about the existential threat gets the reins. They get the House, they get the Senate, they get the presidency, and Democrats are like, yeah, we're going to build 7 electrical car chargers in North Dakota to encourage more electric car driving. And then Republicans are like, we're going to cut $8 million worth of transgenic mice funding and then cut the fuck out of billionaire taxes and blow a giant hole in the debt. And as I've highlighted 1,000 times over, well, I'll tell you what, don't even take my word for it. Here it is right here. This is according to the Office of Management and Budget as well as the CBO. If you look at that, in the 1950s, when anybody making more than $2 million in 2026 dollars was taxed at 91%, again, not advocating for that, just saying what was. We got there from what's that line at there? 106%, which was the World War II record, and it took us from about 48 until about 1974, where it hit the low. Then we got off the gold standard in 71, but it takes time for shit to hit. And then, of course, you got Saint Reagan. Hello, Reagan. Thank you so much for what you did. Then you got the war on terror. Plus COVID spending is that big jump there at the end. But again, I do not hold COVID spending against anybody. I think it was something that was necessary. Here's what happens when you're taxing billionaires and building social programs, doing Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, building infrastructure, doing all the things that are necessary. Here's what happens when Reagan shows up and says, wouldn't it be better if 5 people had all the money? And then here's what happens when George Bush says, I need to finish what my father started. And here's what happens when Donald Trump says, actually, I think billionaires should get all the money. And that is why we are in the position that we are in today. So I ask you, Republicans will sit there and run it up the flagpole that it's because of social programs. It's because immigrants and minorities are such layabouts that they couldn't possibly be able to work for themselves in a way that would prevent this debt from going up. And the only way to stop it is to get them off the government teat. Why is it that Democrats never push back with the obvious two things that are ballooning the debt and deficit? Maybe Bernie says something. Why don't they just look at the obvious data and tell people what's up? Right? Because it's not hard to find this shit. It's all available. Is TikTok freezing for anyone else other than Violet, or is she just on broke ass internet? What's up, Sensei? A small yet powerful part. You are correct. The establishment doesn't want a trifecta. I agree. I think they want the excuses for stagnation. National debt is right where the Republicans want it. No money for anything but national defense. Do we even have the money for that? Without us immigrants, America wouldn't have won the World Cup. Would have had no fans. Without immigrants, you wouldn't have outside the box, man. I mean, you don't even gotta look at it like that. Widespread TDS outrage right now. Why is that? But so here's the thing. Here's what's going to kill me is that the Republicans clearly are fucking up the debt and deficit every single day a little bit more. And then I do believe in 2028 the Democrats will have a trifecta again. And all of the Republicans, as per usual, will find the ability to not vote for anything positive again. And then, like, John Fetterman and Alyssa Slotkin and, like, the shittiest Democrats will vote along with them, be like, look, someone's got to be the adult in the room. We can't all get free stuff all the time. Even though very obviously the things that are screwing us up are tax cuts for billionaires and never ending war with a dash of once in a century pandemic funding. And none of the good stuff is going to get passed again. And Republican voters will act like they care again because I haven't heard a goddamn one of them. Caller Ben did say these are the kind of facts I can get behind. This is bullshit. And I'm like, all right, need more of that. Need more of that energy from the widespread people out there. It's like Kendrick said, few solid brothers, but it's not enough. He doesn't say brothers, though, but I can't say that word. Or can I? I'm joking. Those Patriot outage, yeah. Outside a native gamer, I'm guessing most of us wouldn't be here if not for immigration. Exactly. But don't give gamer that kind of clout. He won't let us hear the end of it. And then here is what our media wants to tell us. The fuck? Oh. There we go. Washington Post article. I'm just going to read this one for you guys rather than pick you back up again. Better to fear price controls than dynamic pricing. Caller Ben's here sometimes, Adam, not always. He's normally here for the night shows more so than the day shows, but he also responds to my Facebook content. Better to fear price controls than dynamic pricing. The answer to bad pricing practices is competition. Now, that's coming from Democracy Dies at the Washington Post. Run by Jeff Bezos, obviously a billionaire operation, leaves a lot to be desired, and you should expect this kind of stuff coming from a billionaire. Here's what's crazy is in this article, there is not a single mention of the fact that bad timing. I should have had my finger on the butt trigger ready for it. The Washington Post was hit with a class action lawsuit over surveillance pricing. So our media infrastructure is writing articles saying you should be more afraid of price controls than the fact that companies can randomly charge you more at times of high demand for no reason other than record profits. That the idea of telling people you're not allowed to charge record profit prices anymore when we are in the middle of an affordability crisis, and that should be more scary than dynamic pricing because the Washington Post was found guilty of dynamic pricing. This story here is a microcosm of why Democrats will not step up and say, oh, no, obviously, if you want to talk about debt and deficit spending, actually, the Democrats are a much better party for that kind of stuff. If you just look at our track record over the course of the last 45 years, we are the ones that try and do something to get this spending under control, and the Republicans are always the ones that blow it back up again. But they don't want to have that talk. They don't want to say that the tax cuts have gone too far, and not only are they going to have to be rolled back to pre-2017 levels, but they're probably going to have to go further than that as well. I came across a social media post by an individual who worked on a handful of campaigns, including campaigns that I would have voted for in the district. He was working with Rick Crossan's campaign, helping out David Crowley. And he was like, yeah, data centers matter, but we need to focus on the main thrust in Wisconsin, and that's on affordability. Great. Very woke of you. And when he talks about affordability, he says Donald Trump's tariffs are making life more expensive. Donald Trump's war is making life more expensive. Here's where this show is going to kind of get difficult to balance. Because a lot of you didn't know me pre-Trump, and some of you didn't know me pre-not being on the internet. I said after Donald Trump won the election, if Democrats think, because I knew Donald Trump would fuck the economy up further than what was, and here we are, because I know trickle-down economics doesn't work. I said, if you believe that I am going to fall for the reason that our economy sucks is because of Donald Trump's policy and has nothing to do with anything that took place in the time prior to that, we're going to have beef. And it seems as though the Democrats are already running on that. We just got to get back to 2024, man. That's when everything was fine. That's what fucking led to Donald Trump. I really hope you can hear me. I really hope all of you can hear me right now. That is what led to Donald Trump. Think bigger. Think bolder. Think outside the boxer. This isn't rocket science here. And yet they are willing to just look at Trump's policies. They're not looking at surveillance pricing. They're not looking at... Jarmani's saying she's being told to not even talk about taxing the rich anymore. The corporate answer to competitive pricing is collusion, says Sensei. You're exactly... That's what we're fucking living. I know you know that, but... If we're all fans of relating our personal finances with the finances of our nation, a more important component is income. Imagine trying to keep living while actively cutting your arms off. Wait, how does that relate? I mean, yeah, I get your point. That'd be difficult as fuck, but how does that relate to what I was saying? I think I'm too stupid to understand your analogy on that one. Todd says there is no other answer than to tax the rich. I mean, that's a component of the answer, yes. Because if Democrats show up and say, yeah, we're taxing the rich at 50% going forward. All right, we won. Send it to Ukraine. Okay, no. That's no. You're wrong. Stop that. Send it to Israel. No, stop. Fucking stop. That doesn't need to happen. Send it to Elon Musk. We need electric cars. What the fuck are you people doing? Like, tax the rich is half of it. That's why in California... And of course, Gavin Newsom is pissed off about this. They're doing a one-time 5% wealth tax, or they're trying to, and the billionaires are throwing, I think at the latest count, $105 million at advertising to try and stop that wealth tax from going through. But in California, they're like, we're going to tax your wealth at 5%, and we're going to take that money to invest it in the shortcomings for Medicaid because of the federal cutoff, and invest it in public schools. So not only are they taxing the shit out of billionaires, but they're saying, here is exactly what we intend to do with that money on the other side of it. That is the other component. You need Democrats to say, we're going to tax the rich, and here's the exact ways that we are going to use that money to benefit you. Sister Jones says the number one priority should be Citizens United. Yeah, I feel that. I think that's a big one. It's another thing that pisses me off about the Crowley win, because we had a chance to have somebody not taking corporate money while everybody sits there bitching about corporate money all the time. Like, you don't get to, not you, sister, I know you know. You don't get to sit there bitching about everybody taking corporate money and then go vote for the guy taking corporate money because something about Thanksgiving. Like, what are we doing? Oh, national debt. Income in our government sense is the taxes they levy. Every time you cut taxes, you cut income for the balanced budget. Yes, you are. Okay, I get your logic now. Yes. As far as Ukraine goes, I would be quite happy if we only helped as much as we promised already. I agree, and I also think we should be pushing for diplomacy. Like, Jim, I'm a very big believer that the entire conflict in Ukraine is a conflict over economics, and economics can be solved without the sword, unless you want to be a greedy prick about it. And I'm not implying Ukraine is doing that. I'm implying America and NATO is doing that. Truck and Citizens United is just, it was passed in 2010 with a 5-4 vote. All the Republicans voting in favor of it, of course, because fuck the Republicans. Allowing for unlimited money, essentially declaring that corporations are people. And as a result, corporations deserve the ability to invest money in campaigns as well. And then the advent of super PACs happened because you are only allowed to, as an individual. Here's a fun stat. During the primaries, you are allowed to, as an individual, I believe the number is $3,600, as one man or woman, because there's only two genders, as one man, or I'm joking, one, as one individual, you have the capacity to invest $3,600. If you invested in every Democrat that was running during the primary season in 2026, it would have cost you, I believe the number was $1.6 million. Elon Musk is talking about dropping $120 million into super PACs to help Republicans win. So if you wanted to invest in every Democrat across the nation, you could do $1.6 million. But because of the combination of Tesla being viewed as a person and super PACs allowing for unlimited wealth as long as you don't coordinate with the candidate, you now have built this infrastructure of unlimited money being funneled in by a handful of people. And even if you had the funds to compete with it, you legally would not be allowed to compete with it. Not shit we're going to be able to do about that on the national level because it's 6-3 Republican right now, but states are pushing back. And it's not even, it's fucking Montana. It's Hawaii. So that's deep blue Hawaii, deep red Montana on the state level have repealed Citizens United. You know what's interesting? I don't know if this is even going to be available. Hold on. No, I think it would take me too long to actually be able to find it. You guys might remember back in 2012, Stephen Colbert started a fake campaign running for president, and then he ended up starting a super PAC. This was all to highlight exactly how stupid super PACs were. And so He was either running for president or he might have been running for a position in South Carolina, which is where he's from, whether it was governor or senate. I don't remember, but he was running for office, pretending to. He wasn't really, but he was pretending to. And then he started a super PAC and he put it in the hands of Jon Stewart. And it was a running bit. And they had a lawyer on Colbert's show. And they were like, just to be clear, I don't have anything to do with Jon Stewart, so he can spend this money however he wants. And then the lawyer would go, yes, as long as you are not directly in communication. They would both laugh like, school children, and then they'd go off. And Jon Stewart created a commercial that said, if Mitt Romney believes, and they played a clip of Mitt Romney saying, I believe that corporations are people. And then the commercial goes, then Mitt Romney is a serial killer because he was a hedge fund manager and he broke up so many companies and sold them for scraps that if you believe corporations are people, he killed a bunch of corporations and therefore he's a serial killer. And this super PAC put this ad out there and it rose a lot of awareness about how campaign financing worked. And it was funny. I'm recalling something from 12 years ago. Like, that's how much it stuck with me. But nothing changed. We all laughed about it. Some of us became a little bit more informed on the matter, and then nothing has changed since then. Now states are starting to get back into the swing of things here, trying to take matters into their own hand. And by the way, hey, David Crowley, this might be something good to run on. Statewide, let's get rid of Citizens United and make sure that Elon Musk and Reid Hoffman, both of which have affiliations with the Epstein list, don't try and buy our elections going forward. That sounds like a nice plan. Republicans hate Reid Hoffman. Democrats hate Elon Musk, or at least they do now. They didn't used to, and I'll never let you forget it. But how about we all wake up to what's actually to what's holding us back here and just prevent any of this bullshit from happening going forward. I'm going to go against my better judgment and accept this guest and see what's happening here. Let's see what happens. Do I have the volume up? Yeah, what's on your mind?
Yeah, what's up, man? What is this? I don't know. I just got accepted. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I do I do a talk radio show 9 to 11. We're talking about money and politics, the national debt right now. Did you have any thoughts about this, or was this an accident?
Oh, no. Yeah. I'm about talking about that stuff. So, how do you feel about Eric Swallow getting arrested earlier this morning?
Oh, did he for the shit that he dropped out of the race for?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that. Good. Yeah, like good.
Well, did you hear that he was also sleeping with a Chinese spy and sitting in the Intel committee?
Is that, I know there was because like that was quasi. I always get nervous because there seemed like there was some validity to that, but it also felt like some pretty shitty people were getting on board with it. And I was like, is this racist or is this happening? So I don't know a lot about it. And I'll be real, man. I trust the Chinese government about as much as I trust the American government in a lot of ways. So I don't view China as a threat as much as I view them as an economic competitor, I guess would be the way I describe it.
Well, yeah. I mean, economically, she was buying him off to push certain policies in California.
I'll tell you what. I'll look into it. I don't know enough, and I don't want to pew from the hip here on the matter. I'm not even calling you a liar. I don't know enough about it, but
the thing that pisses me off about the situation is like the Democrats knew about Swallow and his issues with this Chinese individual, and they never said anything about it, and they covered it up and swept it under the rug after he was investigated over it.
Well, so then let's because I can kind of feel what you're going for here now. So then let's shoe on the other foot here. Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Are you in favor of that or no? Yeah, he has like all of the worst. It's basically like the real world equivalent of the Legion of Doom in terms of authoritarian leaders around the planet. They all pay him $1 billion and they get to sit on this wartime council with him, making decisions about foreign policy along with the American government.
I mean, we already have something called the UN, right?
But that's not pay to play. This is money going to Donald Trump. And you get to have say in what's happening as long as you pay Donald Trump. Is that bothersome to you?
Well, I mean, we're going to, same thing with you. Like, I gotta look into the border peace. Where's that money going? What do the actual documents look like? Like, what is the structure of this organization? Is it even like created yet, or is it just?
Oh yeah, it's already well underway, and there's people that sit on. It's like Saudi Arabia, and like it's just all, like I said, it's a bunch of countries. And again, I'd argue most countries have predominantly good people and predominantly shitty leadership. Like, I feel like that's a fair way to describe most places. But it really is some of the shittiest leadership as part of the Board of Peace.
I mean, the UN has some pretty shitty leadership in it too, you know. So
I'd argue we're the worst part of the UN, but I appreciate it nevertheless. But we're the ones vetoing food as a right and all that kind of jazz, whereas I'd rather see somebody, you know, actually be a good person in the UN. Normally, most of the people in the UN are like, yeah, I think people should get food and Israel's doing a genocide. Like, I'd prefer that we also vote that way, but it seems like we're always on the wrong side of things here. But I'll look into the Chinese spy thing for sure. But I didn't even know he got arrested. Why is that not on my trending? But you take it easy. It's interesting. I feel like that was a quasi troll, but I feel like good things happened there, and I'm glad he chimed in. This is why I love Ben. Yeah, I knew what he was doing, but I liked, you give people the rope, and then you slowly let them. Don't mute me, TikTok. I love that MAGAs are starting to find my TikTok chat. I'm going to just trust you guys to handle it. We got some guy who named Rob who just simply said, I appreciate all those gifts, Elf. That was very nice of you. Donald Trump is the best leader of all time. Yeah, Rob, I hear that. Oh, you see the guest on Debate Lives for sure. See, I can't see you guys messaging because I still have to hold the phone up to the ceiling. The FBI raided his home, but I didn't see where he got arrested. Okay. For the record, Eric Swalwell's a piece of shit. If he did the things he said he did, which seems pretty clear, he's a piece of shit. Yeah, who gives a fuck about Swalwell? Thank you, Kristen. That's kind of my attitude on the matter as well, personally. But so, back to where we were at, though, repealing Citizens United is obviously a good step. And I'd argue if Democrats are serious about reaching out to the progressive flank, wish I would have said that yesterday. I wish they would have been a little more, they should be more vocal about pushing back against that kind of shit. All right, we're behind on YouTube comments here. I agree. That requires more pressure on Russia. Ukraine has put out a number of ceasefire and let's meet and have peace talks. Putin has said no to every single one. Yeah, there does need to be more pressure on Russia. But like, and I realize you can't go back and change the past. Russia was negotiating in good faith in 2022 and chose not to. Or America decided to step in and stop that. Larry, this might have been an accident, or he wants to hop on and we'll do more comments. But what's on your mind, Larry? Decided to step in and stop that. Nope, that feels like it's an accident. Is that an accident, Larry? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, the taking calls on TikTok is becoming a bit of a game of Russian roulette, is it not? As a boomer, I believe we should help Ukraine defeat an unprovoked invasion. Is it unprovoked, old lib? Like that's my main contention here, is that I do not view Russia as the bad guy and America as the good guy. I view it as two governments trying to exist with shitty leadership, and doing and going about it in their own way. At the end of the day, what's interesting about this, and I recognize that you also are kind of in sync with me on Israel-Palestine, but there's a lot of people that don't realize that Russia's claim for the war is the exact same thing as Israel's. Yo, the Donbass region used to be ours. You guys took it from us, and now it turns out that there's a bunch of rare earth minerals on that land worth trillions of dollars. We want a piece of that money. Boris Johnson and Anthony Blinken show up and they say, nah, don't worry, Ukraine. We'll guard you in perpetuity. Make sure Russia doesn't get a single cent, because Russia's obviously going to mine them, sell them to China, and China's tech is going to get better, right? Again, don't view China as a threat either. I view them as an economic competitor. The only difference between the Russia-Ukraine parallel and the Israel-Palestine parallel is that more than half, actually more than 70% of the people living in the Donbass region still identify as Russian while being a part of Ukraine. So if people really wanted peace, they would work out a deal where Russia could mine 15 to 20% of the minerals, have access to the warm water port that's there, and anybody living in the Donbass region who wants to identify as a Russian can become a Russian again. You no longer get access to Ukrainian government services, and you're throwing your lot in with Russia. And if Putin decides to leave you with no energy in the winter and you're going to freeze to death, that is a you and Russia problem, and you have nothing to do with Ukraine anymore. If you really wanted to push for peace, there's a really bare bones solution to address an issue, and you negotiate from there. But America and NATO said, nah, we want all those minerals. We want all the access to this, and we will give you weapons forever. Now, I believe we should be men and women of our word, and Donald Trump is backing out on that. But also, you as a country should probably know that you don't want parts in that. And then there is the entire question about how many of the billions of dollars are being funneled into corrupt oligarchs in Ukraine, because there's quite a bit of evidence of that happening there as well. So while a lot of people, much like what ties into the first hour of this show, a lot of us that are pro-Ukraine actually are pro-Ukraine and want our tax dollars going there. And then the tax dollars get funneled into a handful of people's pockets. And it's like, well, okay, people are still dying. We're at over 1 million casualties between both countries at this point. Do you remember when we were told if we don't contribute to this war that Russia is not only going to take Ukraine, but they're going to encroach further and further into NATO as we go? And then they only took the Donbass region, and whether we funnel $130 billion into Ukraine or Trump completely cuts off Ukraine, Russia really hasn't moved any further in the Donbass region. That's not a fucking accident. It's because they wanted access to the minerals. They were not imperialist. Well, it is imperialist. What they're doing is obviously imperialist, but it's not expansive in nature. They had no intention of going beyond where that stopgap, and I think that's been playing out. I think there is a very obvious off-ramp here, but of course, our military-industrial complex is looking for any reason for more to build more bombs with our tax dollars, and that's why we're here. It's called domino theory. Don't you remember? Said Moondog. Yeah, exactly. I'm way behind on all comments. Did you always dislike Elon? And if so, what was your original reason? So I used to read up on Elon all the time, and I knew that I could tell that he was a fraud because he didn't invent Tesla, yet he called himself the founder of Tesla. He bought into the company with other people and made them sign paperwork that implied that he was intelligent. And I am just instinctively anti-billionaire. I never go into it. If someone is obscenely wealthy, no matter how they got money, the only time I ever gave a billionaire the benefit of the doubt, it was J.K. Rowling. And I learned I'm never making that mistake again. So I instinctively start with that billionaire is probably a piece of shit. And then I work backwards from there. And then I am always born out to be right. It's only a matter of time, not accuracy with that thought process. People think they have to okay, yeah. I did have a good opinion on Elon before all the COVID stuff. My uncle, who, if you saw a picture of my uncle at 38, you would think you were looking at me. He and I are very similarly wired people. And when I was like 15 or 16 years old, I used to think that Stephen Colbert was an actual Republican. I didn't understand the satire in his show. And he'd be like, you realize that's a gimmick, right? I was like, no, he's Republican. And that was when I was 15 or 16. I'm going to be 39 next month. And he still says to me, do you remember when you thought Stephen Colbert was actually a Republican? And it would always piss me off until one day in 2017, we were debating whether or not Elon Musk was a good guy or not, because he too is a Hillary Clinton style liberal. And I was like, Elon Musk sucks. Everything about him is fraudulent. You're buying into propaganda, and you shouldn't be into it. He's like, no, what he's doing for the environment is irreplaceable. You got to appreciate what he's doing there. And so anytime now he says, remember when you thought Stephen Colbert was a Republican? I go, remember when you thought Elon Musk was a good dude? And then he like scowls at me, and I'm like, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Violet gave Bill Gates the benefit of the doubt. If Russia just wanted the Donbass region, why is there convoy in Kiev and Mariupol? Well, I'm saying that's where it started. But do you believe, Harambe, in all honesty, do you believe they're trying to take the entirety of Ukraine? Do you actually believe? And if you do, that's fine. I'm not gonna. Do you believe their intention is, because you see what a struggle this has been, and that is not even trying to push back against NATO. NATO really isn't. They're chipping in some weapons, but you touch a NATO country, and now all of a sudden you have 15 countries worth, or whatever the number is, worth of ammunition coming down on you, and you're barely able to hold your own as it stands right now. Do you really think their intention is to expand beyond that? Because I don't. I think Biden got us out of Afghanistan. We went almost 6 months without a war, and the powers that be were like, well, this can't be. Let's go find a conflict somewhere. And here we are. I guarantee you I'm way behind on these here. Oh, okay, no, not really. Quick Google. Looks like they raided his home and have seized devices. Interesting. That could also be just, Trumpian bluster. So that's in regards to Swalwell. I think he's a piece of trash still, but I'll be interested to hear more. Jim says, I believe we should help them, not fund and arm them like we do Israel. I feel that. Issue with Ukraine, Russia is also that the US and UK undercut peace talks initially. That's kind of what I was getting at, because they wanted to bleed Russia. We also haven't required audits for the money going there. So I didn't realize you said that, but it looks like I addressed a lot of your points without reading it there, but you're exactly right. All right, good. Old Lib and CKK have negotiated the American position on Ukraine. Let's enact the policy and move on. Who do I call with this? Iran war is the best thing that could have happened to Russia. Need Russian oil. That is financing the war. How much money is enough, and how can we claim we want peace when we have actively been holding out for a better deal for years? It's killing the Ukrainian population, and for what? Exactly. And it's like, I am an anti-war leftist. I always approach this show. There are reasons for conflict, but in 2026, those reasons are dwindling very quickly. You think they initially thought they would take it all, but their intel was bad? That's possible. I think this was a strategic maneuver, like Ethan said, between America and the UK. Because I think if there's one thing we're finding, and I don't want to tempt fate, but the American military isn't as impressive. The soldiers are obviously very well trained, but the Iran war is showing us, between the depleted munitions and our inability to actually do anything except, blow up children and whatnot. Russia obviously is struggling as well, but I think we're in a never-ending arms race for a limited amount of resources for technology that nobody fucking wants. And then that's where all of our money goes. And I genuinely believe if Hillary Clinton had won in 2016, the Russia-Ukraine conflict would have started between 2016 and 2020. I believe it was, for all of Trump's bullshit. I do think he's too cozy to Putin, but I do think that he wasn't interested. That was how he got the anti-war moniker. And obviously he's full of shit, but that's how it happened. I appreciate that, Old Lib. He says, great show. Hit the like button. But I feel that. Keep in mind, I was chased out of Pittsburgh because when Russia was lining tanks up along the border of Ukraine, I went on the air for like my third time ever talking politics. And I said, okay, look, I've been researching this Russia-Ukraine conflict. It wasn't even long. I said for the last 18 hours. I said, I am by no means claiming to be an expert. I said, here's what I do know. We just got out of a 20-year war that cost us $2 trillion. I would argue that most Americans have a more firm grasp on why Thanos wanted to snap half of humanity out of existence than why Russia is doing this. And the real fact remains that I think a lot of liberals at that point still secretly blamed Russia for Hillary Clinton losing in 2016, and they didn't really question a lot of the philosophy behind going to war there and funding Ukraine. And I said, let's not jump the gun. And my program director, who was a Fox News Republican, but he didn't get the marching orders yet. He didn't realize that Republicans were going to be told to be against the war. So he kicks into Reagan mode, comes into my studio during the commercial break and says, you sound like a pro-Putin communist right now. You need to pivot as soon as you get back on the air. And I get back on the air, and the first thing I said is, so anyway, what I was saying was, I think we need to pump the brakes on having an opinion about this war. And I doubled right back down on it, didn't get back on the air for 3 months. That's why I'm in Wisconsin right now. So that is the mindset through which I approach these things. I have never fought in war before. My ability to contribute to the military complex of America is to make sure that my voice and my platform is used to make sure that the people that listen to me are only advocating for conflict at a time when it is truly and obviously necessary. And I don't believe that this had to start, and I most certainly, Putin's being a bastard now, just like Iran is being a bastard now. Iran didn't want to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. That wasn't a thing that happened, but once you start that ball in motion, now emotion's in, now dick measuring starts, now ego gets involved, and all of a sudden, you find yourself in a situation where you're like, well, why are these guys being bastards now? That is the situation in Russia. That's the situation in Iran. That's the situation between Israel and Palestine right now. Hamas says, we want Israel out of Gaza and we will demilitarize. Israel says, demilitarize and we'll get out of Gaza. Neither one of those sides has actually proven that they are trustworthy in any way. So, of course, we are at an impasse there. Had October 7th not happened, I am not saying the conflict started there. I recognize there's a ton of history that led to October 7th. October 7th has led to this hardline position that Israel is now exhibiting today. I'm not defending that position. I'm saying that is what led to it. It's the same thing. It's the same principle applied at 3 different conflicts, all of which have our fingerprints on them. Most of those countries also have free college and universal health care. I think that's an important thing to highlight here as well. That's where my frustration stems from. And I don't want to sound unsympathetic towards the plight of the Ukrainians. I do understand that, and I do want that conflict to stop. But I think that conflict can stop with the pen and not our dollars or our swords. And that is the route that I think that we should take. I appreciate that, Jarmani. It's a tale as old as time, trying to get a world power bogged down in a dumb war that would not be worth it at all degrades them. Reason why China hasn't invaded Taiwan. They aren't stupid. Mark my words, if Democrats have a trifecta in 2028, they will be the ones to initiate some kind of Cold War with China. I'm going to keep saying it so that everybody remembers that I called it years before it happened. I'm really good at predicting the future, and unfortunately, I typically predict shitty things. Iran has world-class gender-affirming healthcare. Really? Aren't they like, are you being ironic? Isn't what the media always tells us, Iran fucking hates the LGBTQ people. Like, isn't that like the line for why I'm supposed to be like gung-ho, let's bomb the shit out of them? That's why I was supposed to be like so anti-Afghanistan. What a great analysis. This war continues because of dick measuring, while Trump should win in Iran because he certainly is the biggest dick on the planet. Not that kind of dick measuring. Reptoid says every bomb is theft from the American people. That's as true as when the speech was delivered. I agree. And I recognize if everyone in America were wired like me, we'd be a pretty easy target. But I also recognize if everyone in the world were wired like me, it'd probably be a lot better place. But I think everybody thinks that. Not about me, about themselves. Which is obnoxious. But all right. We're running a little long here today. We got a couple more sponsors, which means if I can find a few more companies, we will be increasing this to a 3-hour show. Thank you for the follow, Grow. A famous Iranian trans woman convinced the supreme leader. I can't tell if you're fucking with me or not. Is that a real story? That's awesome if that's true. Good for them. Nice. It's crazy that that's what it took. We're a simple creature, people. A lot of sadness in the world. Nothing we can do about it, though. Not today anymore. Like and subscribe, please. I have a YouTube page, Grow. If you're still here, I'd love if you hopped on there and subscribed as well. How'd we do today? Did we pick any more up? Yep, one more. 104 more to go, people. We need 104 more subscribers. Tell your friends. We're almost there. And you guys know the drill. No Ben After Dark today as well. Son of a bitch. There is a flock meeting 6:30 at the Nina Public Library. I am thinking that I will be there. I don't want to full-throatedly commit because I got a couple of things. No Ben After Dark, though. I should be there. If you guys want to go, it's just an informational session about ways to talk flock, what's going on in Northeast Wisconsin surrounding flock, and it's just some good information from some people that know much more about the topic than I do that help me to stay informed as well. So I absolutely will support them. I'll be throwing the details up on my Facebook, TikTok, Insta page. I'll probably get it up on YouTube as well, although it seems like they tend to suppress anything I put up about flock cameras, which is interesting. But I'll try and get it out there nevertheless. And then we will be back tomorrow one more time, 9 a.m. before we call it a career. Until then, have a lovely rest of your day. Oh, whoops. You guys can still hear me here, huh? I clicked the wrong button. Isn't that embarrassing? There we go. Goodbye, everybody.